has it changed? I would love to get like a scope of how it's changed from 35 years ago to today, and also maybe some of the things that people 35 years ago were talking about that only today is being taken seriously.
Well, before we move on with that, MAPS has done some great work. They're here in Boulder, maybe in other places as well, but we've been doing a lot of experimenting for the last 20 years, maybe, with microdosing, and seen tremendous changes with depression, anxiety, alcoholism, caffeine addiction, laziness, candida, if you can believe it, right? We found that the psilocybin molecule, when taken in very small doses, can actually begin to inhibit the candida growth because it's a proper fungus, the psilocybin, right? It can instantly change cravings, instantly change the mood, pain relief. So that's one of the biggest things that's changed, actually, is seeing marijuana and some of these other what have been called street drugs as healing modalities, rather than something to be abused at a rave, right?
Yeah, and they're plants. I mean, like what we're really talking about is we've demonized things that grow out of the ground and said only what comes from a lab, is for your health. The rest of it is drugs, and you should feel shame if you take it, which is a terrible setting to place on whole cultures that are experimenting with these things. That's a conversation for another time. But yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Even the small amounts of it can start correcting some of those things.
And I would encourage folks to stay with the natural products before they start looking at the synthetics like acid or MDA, MDMA. The mushrooms and the edible marijuana tinctures are very, very powerful, like Rick Simpson oil, things like that. Especially in combination with cannacarbon, so that the THC doesn't get out of control, because the THC overdose on an edible can be an unpleasant experience.
Absolutely. So how does, is it the CBD that helps quell that?
Yeah, it's interesting that they're synergistic and they help each other in terms of potency, but the CBD is also an attenuator. And so it can bring down someone from a scary THC place or a scary acid or another drug place. Word got out here a long time ago, and that I was here. And so after some of the Grateful Dead shows, I'd get people on my porch at 2:00 in the morning saying they didn't want to go to the ER because they just took 3 or 4 tabs of acid, and can I help them? Without having the embarrassment or the police involved at the hospital.
The Grateful Dead, man, they changed so many people's lives. So the original question, 35 years ago, right? What were the conversations like?
Okay,
and
so, cutting edge back then would be Rife machines. Certainly, there's been a lot of phony Rife stuff, but even back then, there were quality Rife devices if you knew what to look for. There was what was called the Papini machine, if folks want to look that up, PAPIMI. That was the original PEMF machine, which was, it weighed about 200 pounds and needed a trailer to drag around, and it was expensive and crude, but it worked quite well. Lakovsky had the multi-wave oscillator, but these things were kind of arcane, expensive, and difficult to operate. We've played with a lot of them, but part of the beauty of the technological age is the miniaturization of these things and also the refinement of the output signal. So rather than something crude like a diesel engine or a railroad, train, it's more like a high quality stereo. And things have gone from, $100,000 for a PEMF machine to, $4,500 for a clinical quality version now. So that's been very, very powerful. And then the testing, of course, with the new vision, we didn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
We were still reliant on blood work and dark field microscopy.
So like for the audience, I know these are a lot of new terms and everything like that, but when you're talking about Rife technology, would that be a basis of the PEMF?
No, they're apples and oranges.
Okay, all right.
So the Rife technology originally was a radio frequency that would actually heal in an 8 to 10 mile radius from his laboratory. Everyone with diabetes, for example, when he was running a diabetes frequency.
Wow.
But the Rife machine is predominantly a killing machine meant to kill staph, strep, pneumonia, cancer, right? It can have regenerative qualities, but you have to be very specific with the frequencies. Mm-hmm. The beauty of PEMF is that it's regenerative in totality. It's not trying to kill anything. It is killing things because it's alkalizing the body. And so anything that's acidic won't be able to stick around. But in terms of use for the client, it's much, much easier to deal with PEMF than Rife technology, which is still kind of esoteric.
Yeah. So where we're at with PEMF technology, do you feel like we've pretty much well scratched the surface, or do you feel like there's a lot of evolution still to come with that?
We're still refining the signals. I talked to Dr. Bob Dennis, if folks want to look him up. He's a NASA scientist who was given millions of dollars to study PEMF. So really being able to optimize what's called power, amplitude, waveform, and frequency. These are PAF. These are the 4 parameters that we have to deal with. There's actually 10, but 4 for our discussions. So there's always room for improvement there, but we're in the ballpark and we're in the bell curve. I'm interested in things like the med bed that Jared Rand is talking about, trying to get some corroboration on whether this is for real or whether it's hopium.
What's med bed?
Do you remember the movie Elysium?
Yeah, with Matt Damon.
Yeah. So
yeah.
The woman with the sick daughter, her entire goal in her life was to get this child into the med bed, which was on the spaceship.
Yeah.
Right? So rather than just PEMF, my guess is the med bed is utilizing laser therapies, musical harmonic technologies, like Dr. Steve Schwartz is doing with the Vibe. The Vibe bed, which is a bed that you lay in and actually have music played through your body with a light show. It's an amazing experience. It's like going to Disneyland.
I've done that, and it really is. It's psychedelic in a way. It can change the way you're even feeling, as far as like, you know how psychedelics, they'll show up with something in your jaw and your teeth and your gut. I had that. There was a woman named Dr. Nora Gedgaudas. She was the author of Primal Fat Burner, and she put me on one of those beds. And for me, it amped me up. And then there's this musician that was there, Nako and Medicine for the People. He went in right after me, and he just passed out because his body needed it. So it was interesting how it did something different for both of us. So personal testimony there.
For sure.
There's something going on with that.
Make sure y'all head over to benjosephstewart.com, become a member. You'll have access to the growing library of deeper dives where I talk about all the stuff that I really can't talk about on YouTube. Make sure you get involved in the Discord chat. That's where a lot of the conversation is happening, talking about new theories, being able to interweave into the greater conversation that is how we awaken infinity. That's our highest potential. And I just want to remind you, you are the most powerful technology ever known to creation. Wield it like an artist with a conscience.